Early autumn afternoon. Soft sunlight filtered through moss-covered tile roofs in a narrow alley of Hanoi's old quarter. A truck pulled up in front of house number 23, a home that had just changed hands. Lam Hao stepped out first, opening the door and glancing around the neighborhood. He waved toward the truck and called gently to his wife. "Lan, bring little Na down. I'll unlock the gate." Ha climbed out from the back seat, carrying sleepy-eyed Na in her arms. As she walked, she spoke softly. "She's been asleep the whole ride. I bet she'll be wide awake tonight." The old iron gate creaked loudly as Lam pulled it open, the sound echoing down the quiet alley. He looked into the small courtyard beyond, eyes slowly scanning the neglected flower pots and overgrown plants. Smiling, he turned back to his wife and daughter. "See this? A private yard. Pretty rare for a place in Hanoi." Ha glanced around uneasily, still holding Na. She frowned slightly but nodded. "Yeah, but something about it feels off. Maybe it's just because no one's lived here in a while." Lam chuckled reassuringly. "Don't worry, I asked around. The previous owners were an elderly couple who sold the place and moved to the countryside with their kids. Nothing shady. It was cheap because they needed to sell quickly." He opened the front door. A gust of air swept in, bringing with it the musty scent of a long-abandoned home. A thin layer of dust covered everything inside. Ha Lan stepped in, gently patting Na's chest to soothe her. "Mommy, is this our new house?" Na rubbed her eyes and asked sleepily. Ha smiled and nodded. "Yes, sweetie. From today, this is our home. Do you like it?" Na looked around, then pointed toward the back corner of the house. "Mommy, that looks like Grandpa's altar table." Ha followed her gaze. It was just an empty wooden shelf, probably left behind for ancestor worship. She gently stroked Na's head. "Yeah, probably used for offerings. Most families have something like that." Meanwhile, Lam started unpacking, dragging a chair into the courtyard. He sat down with a sigh. "This is exhausting. I'll call someone tomorrow to fix the kitchen and the back room door. They're really worn down." Ha stepped out with a cleaning rag in hand. "Which room?" "The one upstairs looks fine to me." "The one behind the kitchen?" Lam pointed. "There's this weird added wall. I'll check tomorrow if we should tear it down." Ha nodded slowly, her voice uneasy. "Just be careful. I don't like touching those kinds of built-in structures. Sometimes people build them for a reason." Lam waved off her concern with a chuckle. "You're always spooked. Let me take a closer look tomorrow before we decide anything." That entire afternoon, the family cleaned, dusted, and arranged their belongings. Laughter and conversation filled the once damp silence of the house. Na played and danced around joyfully, sometimes talking to herself, but her parents thought she was simply having fun. That night, they had dinner on the vintage floral tiles beneath the glow of a dim yellow light. Lam turned on the television while Ha cleaned up. Adjusting the volume, he asked, "Did anyone around here say hi to us?" Ha dried her hands and sat next to him. The old lady across the street looked over a few times. I greeted her, but she didn't respond, just stared, then went inside. Lam nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Probably just not used to us. People in this neighborhood have lived here for decades. They're cautious with strangers." "Let's hope that's all it is," Ha murmured. Suddenly, Na called out from her room. "Mommy, there's a tiny door in here that I can't open." Lam stood up quickly. "A door? What door, sweetie?" He walked in and saw a peeling section of floral wallpaper in the back corner of the room near the kitchen. Na pointed at it. "Right here, Daddy. It looks like a door. But it's really hard." Lam tapped it. Sure enough, it sounded hollow. He frowned. "Huh, looks like they sealed something up. I'll take a closer look tomorrow." Ha entered the room and gently pulled Na back. "Go play somewhere else, sweetheart. Let Daddy handle it." Na hesitated, then quietly walked away. Ha turned to Lam and said softly, "Don't break it open yet. Let me ask around the neighbors first." Lam smiled and took her hand. "All right, I'll wait." Outside, the wind had begun to rise. It swept through the narrow alley and whispered through the cracks in the doors. Inside, the dim yellow light flickered faintly, casting soft shadows over the three figures sitting quietly in the center of their old yet warm home. like a family just beginning a new chapter together. If you'd like part 2 to be converted the same way, fully in English, seamless and natural, just let me know. I'm ready when you are. The next morning, sunlight crept through the door cracks and cast a soft glow on the cream-colored curtains in the living room. Ha was busy in the kitchen making breakfast, the gentle clinking of the ladle against the pot echoing rhythmically. Lam stepped out of the bedroom, still drowsy, rubbing the back of his neck. He walked over to his wife, his voice low and tired. "You're up early? We just moved in yesterday. You could have rested a bit longer." Ha turned to him and offered a faint smile. "I'm used to it. Plus, it's a new place. I didn't sleep well. I think I heard something in the house during the night." Lam yawned and sat down at the dining table. "What kind of sound?" "I slept straight through, while ladling soup into a bowl." Ha replied calmly. "I couldn't tell exactly. It sounded like knocking on a wooden door. Soft knocks. 3 at a time. Then silence." Lam frowned, glancing toward the back of the house. "Could have been a rat running on the roof. It's an old house, empty for years. We'll get used to these things." Little Na ran out from the small room, holding a drawing pad in her hand. She ate while pointing at her picture. "Mommy, Daddy, look, I drew our new house." Ha sat beside her, gently asking, "It's beautiful, but what's that red shape in the corner of the yard?" Na tilted her head, glanced at her drawing again, and softly answered, "That's where the lady stands. She wears a red dress. Her hair is really long." She was looking at me. Ha froze, then glanced at her husband. Unsure, Lam smiled and patted Na's head. "You must have imagined it, sweetie. No one was there when we moved in. Just drawing for fun, right?" Na nodded and continued coloring her picture, quietly humming a melody to herself. Lam stood up, picked up a flashlight, and headed toward the back of the house. He called out from a distance, "Lan, I'm going to check that wall from yesterday. Let me know if you need anything." Ha looked up and replied with concern, "Please don't break anything yet. That area still feels strange to me." Standing in front of the old wall, the flashlight's beam revealed patches of cement and bricks, roughly plastered together. Lam tapped lightly, thud, thud, the sound echoed, indicating it was hollow inside. He stepped back and muttered, "It really is hollow. Wonder if there's a hidden storage or something behind it." Moments later, Ha came down the stairs holding a cleaning cloth and stood behind her husband. She looked at the wall and said slowly, "I just spoke with the old lady next door. She said the previous owners haven't lived here in years. Some people rented it, but they all left quickly. Never stayed long." Lam turned to his wife, his voice serious. "They didn't stay long. Maybe it had to do with this room?" Ha crossed her arms, her eyes fixed on the tiny gap between the top of the wall and the ceiling. "I don't know, but every time I walk past it, I get chills down my spine." Lam set the flashlight down on a nearby table and said quietly, "Let's wait for now. I'll ask the workers when they come. I won't tear it down myself." That afternoon, Lam went out to buy more repair supplies. Ha stayed upstairs cleaning. Little Na sat alone in her room, quietly drawing. As her mother passed by, she stopped and looked at her daughter's newest picture. Frowning, she softly asked, "Na, what are you drawing?" Na pointed to a figure kneeling on the ground, its head pressed low, surrounded by small circles like markings. "The lady told me to draw her," she replied, "so I wouldn't forget her face. She told me I must remember." Ha felt a chill run through her body. She quickly snatched the drawing and raised her voice without meaning to. "Don't say things like that. No one told you to draw this." Na's lips trembled, tears welling up. "You yelled at me?" Ha sighed and pulled her daughter into a hug, whispering gently, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, but you have to promise me, no more drawings like this. Okay?" Na pressed her face into her mother's shoulder and mumbled, "Okay." That night, while the family was having dinner, a sudden gust of wind blew in, causing the back door to rattle loudly. Lam stood up, closed it quickly, and returned to the table. While serving himself, he said, "Have you noticed, the wind's been weird since this afternoon? Feels like it's blowing upward from beneath the house." Ha thought for a moment before answering, What I found strange was the cats in the alley. Around noon, when I was hanging clothes, 3 or 4 cats stood in front of our gate, just staring in. They didn't even blink, like they were watching something. Lam paused mid-bite and glanced at her, half joking. Are you trying to scare me? Ha's expression was serious, her voice dropping. No, I mean it, I don't feel safe. Suddenly, the sound of metal clanging rang out from the kitchen, clang, clatter, as if someone had touched the pots. Lam jumped up and rushed in, but found nothing. He returned to the table, trying to smile. Must have been a rat. I'll get traps tomorrow. It's nothing. Na looked at her mother and whispered, Mommy, the lady is standing behind the cabinet. She doesn't like Daddy. Na's words lingered in Ha's mind. She's standing behind the cabinet. She doesn't like Daddy. Ha gently squeezed her daughter's hand, then softly asked, Tell Mommy clearly. Who is she? Where did you see her? Na looked up with her clear, innocent eyes, still holding a colored pencil in her hand. Back there, at the far end of the house. She was wearing a red dress. Her hair was really long. She looked at me, then looked at Daddy. She didn't say anything, but she looked sad. Ha turned to her husband, eyes filled with suspicion. Lam stood nearby with his arms crossed, speaking slowly. She might have dreamed it, or imagined something after hearing a story. Don't take it to heart. Ha kept her eyes on their daughter, brushing Na's forehead gently, but she drew that picture clearly. The face had no eyes, just empty sockets. Kids don't make that up. Na looked down, flipped to another page, and whispered, She told me to draw her, so I wouldn't forget her face. She said she had once been forgotten. The next morning, Lam put on an old t-shirt, grabbed a hammer and flashlight, and walked to the back of the house. He stood in front of the patchy brick wall, right where Na had pointed and said the lady stood. He took a deep breath, then raised the hammer and struck. Bricks cracked, dust exploded into the air. Ha stepped out from the kitchen, coughing softly as she called out, Are you really breaking it down? Wiping the sweat from his forehead, Lam replied, I need to know what's inside. Leaving it like this, you and Na won't have peace of mind. He continued hammering. Finally, the last bricks fell away, revealing a deep recess. Inside was a small concrete shrine, coated in dust and tangled in cobwebs. About waist high, atop the shrine sat a blackened porcelain incense burner with 3 legs, one of which had broken off, leaving it tilted. Around the base of the shrine were faded red cloth strips, loosely wrapped and nearly falling apart. Lam leaned in with the flashlight, then called out to his wife, Ha, come look at this. It looks like a shrine. Ha came closer, peered inside, then stepped back half a pace. A shrine? Inside a house? And they built a wall to seal it up? Squatting down, Lam lowered his voice. Maybe it was a protective shrine, or to honor someone who passed away here. But why hide it? Ha shook her head, gripping the edge of her shirt. I don't want to touch it. Let's just clean it and light incense. Don't move it. Don't tear it down. Lam nodded. Okay, we'll leave it. I'll go out later and buy incense and some fruit. That afternoon, Ha cleaned the area around the shrine. She placed a plate of fruit, lit 3 incense sticks, and pressed her palms together in a quiet prayer. If someone used to live here, please allow us to stay. We won't disturb or destroy anything. We only ask to live here in peace. Lam stood silently behind her, his eyes betraying unease. Evening came. After dinner, the family rested. Little Na colored at the table, but her eyes kept glancing toward the shrine. Ha placed a hand gently on her daughter's shoulder and asked, Are you still seeing her? Na? Na nodded. Yes, but now she's sitting. She's not standing anymore. She's looking down at the floor, crying. But there's no sound. Lam set his water glass down and looked at his daughter. Don't think about her anymore. Okay? There's no one here. Just me, Mommy, and you. Na was quiet for a few seconds, then said softly, But she likes the smell of incense. She said, if people offer it without asking, she gets upset. Ha suddenly turned toward her husband, her voice tense. Did you say anything when you lit the incense earlier? Or did you just stand there? Lam blinked, caught off guard. He stammered, I lit it. But I didn't say anything. I figured you already prayed. So I didn't. Ha sighed and pressed her palm to her forehead. These things aren't simple. Lam, even if you don't believe, you still have to be respectful. Late at night, the house gradually sank into silence. Only a faint light glowed at the end of the hallway. Lam stepped out to check the doors. As he passed by the shrine, he noticed the incense stick was still glowing red. He froze, furrowing his brow. Huh, it should have burned out by now. From inside the room, Ha's voice called softly. Lam, Na was talking in her sleep. She kept repeating, "Don't lock the door, she's still outside." Lam gripped his flashlight tightly. A cold breeze slipped across his back, and it sent a shiver straight through him. The half-burned incense sticks glowed faintly in the dark. Even though the whole family was already asleep, Lam stood in front of the small shrine, the beam from his flashlight casting shadows on his pale face. A cold wind slipped through the window behind him, biting, though there was no storm outside. From inside the house, Ha's voice trembled as she called out, "Lam, Na is sleep talking again. She keeps saying the same thing. Don't lock the door, she's still outside." Lam took a deep breath, placed the nearly burned incense stick back into the cracked porcelain burner, and turned to walk back into the house. As he closed the door, the creak of the hinge echoed through the quiet room. The next morning, Ha had a pounding headache, her eyes red and weary as if she hadn't slept all night. She quietly ate porridge, one hand rubbing her temples. Na was beside her, drawing again, still the woman in red, but this time with her back turned. Lam put down his bowl, stared at his wife, and asked, "You tired? Did you hear the wind howling last night too?" Ha nodded faintly, her voice drained. "I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw myself lying in a dark room. The shrine was right next to my bed. Someone was standing beside me, breathing heavily, but I couldn't move, like something was holding me down." Lam leaned on the table, doubt flickering in his eyes. "Just sleep paralysis. Maybe. You've been overthinking." Ha shook her head slowly, her tone flat. "But the same dream happened 3 nights in a row, exactly the same. Each time, the figure stood closer." That afternoon, while Ha was hanging laundry outside, an elderly woman with white hair and a walking stick passed by. It was Granny too, a neighbor who had lived here since the old quarter was just a village. She stopped, glanced into the yard, and called softly, "Miss, come here for a moment. I need to tell you something." Ha hesitated a bit, then stepped out and politely greeted her. "Hello, Granny. Are you coming back from the market?" Granny too looked into the house, then leaned in and asked quietly, "Has anything strange happened in your house lately?" Ha froze for a moment, hesitated, then replied, "Not really, just that. We found a small shrine inside a wall. We didn't dare remove it, just cleaned it and lit some incense." Granny too squinted into the distance, then shook her head. "Yes, that shrine. This house once had a binding shrine built, not for ancestors, but to trap a cursed spirit." Ha's hands turned cold as she swallowed hard and whispered, "A cursed spirit? What does that mean?" The old woman lowered her voice like a hush. "Someone in that house used black magic, but it backfired. The practitioner died unnaturally, couldn't pass on, so a binding shrine was built right over the spot to trap the spirit inside. They warned never to break the wall or pray carelessly. Disturbing it could release the bound energy." Ha stood frozen, her lips trembling. "But I lit incense. I prayed, asked permission." Granny too waved her hand slowly, shaking her head. "Not everything can be asked for. Some things are simply not meant to be touched." That evening, Ha told her husband everything. Lam's face turned cold, but he tried to reassure her. "She's just being superstitious. Don't overthink it. I'll call someone to check the feng shui." Ha sat on the couch hugging their child, her voice quivering. "I'm not afraid of ghosts. I'm afraid we don't even know what we're living with." That night, as the family slept, Ha was once again jolted awake by a strange chill. She opened her eyes, but couldn't move. In front of her, a vague figure leaned over, face blurred, with only blood-red eyes visible. She wanted to scream, but her mouth was frozen. Tears streamed down her face unconsciously. In that haze between dream and reality, she heard someone whisper in her ear, "The wrong prayer brings the wrong burden." The next morning, Ha sat curled up in the kitchen corner, eyes vacant. Lam walked in, sat beside her, and placed a hand on her shoulder. His voice was hoarse. "Last night, it happened again, didn't it?" Ha didn't respond. She just stared toward the back of the house, where yesterday's incense still lingered, the smoke faint and haunting. Ha sat by the stove, holding a cup of ginger tea she couldn't bring herself to sip. Her eyes were vacant, fixed on the thin smoke curling in the air. Lam sat across from her, saying nothing, just watching his wife with concern in his eyes. He gently reached out and touched her arm, his voice low. "You can't keep going on like this. Maybe I should take a few days off. I'll take you to a temple, help you find peace again." Ha shook her head, her eyes never leaving the dark corner of the house where the little shrine sat. "It's not because I'm easily spooked. I'm sure something's following us. Actually, I think it's not me, it's following Na." Lam's brows furrowed, his voice turning hoarse. "What do you mean? Tell me more." Ha rested her hand on her forehead, hesitated for a moment, then replied, "This morning, I was cleaning up Na's toys and found a bundle of papers hidden under the mattress, all filled with drawings that looked like talismans I've seen in old books. One of them had a line written on it. She told me to draw this so I wouldn't be called by name." That noon, little Na was sitting on the floor playing alone, surrounded by papers and markers. She wasn't coloring princesses like usual, but was drawing overlapping circles, filled with tangled red symbols. Ha sat beside her and gently asked, "Na, what are you drawing? Mommy's been seeing drawings like this a lot lately." Na looked up, her expression calm and steady. "I'm drawing what she told me to. She said I had to draw them so I won't be called." Ha frowned, placing her hand on the paper, then asked again, "Called? Who's calling you?" Na pursed her lips and whispered, "There's someone standing at the door. Every night, they call my name, but if I have the talisman, they won't see me." Ha took her daughter's hand and gasped. On Na's left wrist was a red ink drawing of a charm, the curved lines stretching from her wrist to near her elbow. Her voice trembled as she asked, "Who drew this on you?" Na pulled her hand back, her tone slow and calm. "She did it, Mommy. She said it only works if it's drawn on skin." At that moment, Lam walked in from outside, still holding a bag of fresh vegetables. As he set it down, he heard Ha calling anxiously, "Lam, come here, look at her arm." Lam hurried over, saw the red ink on his daughter's wrist, and asked loudly, "Who drew this? Did you do it yourself?" Na lowered her head and muttered, "No, she drew it while I was sleeping." Ha gripped the child's hand tightly, her eyes welling up. "Please don't say that again, sweetie. Mommy gets chills every time you do." Na looked up, her gaze slowly shifting toward the shrine at the back of the house. For a brief moment, her face went blank, then she muttered softly, "She's angry now. She said Mommy doesn't believe me, so she won't hide anymore." Lam stood still for a moment, then took a wet cloth and tried to wipe the charm off Na's arm. But the more he wiped, the more the red ink smeared across her skin. He sighed, struggling to stay calm. "What kind of ink is this? It's not normal marker." Ha stood up, her voice trembling. "Now do you see? This isn't just a kid playing around. For several nights now, I've dreamed of someone standing over her bed, their face right over hers, like they're checking if she's still breathing." Lam clenched the cloth in his hand, tension clear in his eyes. He spoke softly, but firmly, "Then I'll take a day off tomorrow. We'll bring her to see a spiritual master. We have to do something." That night, Ha laid out Na's blanket, gently brushing her daughter's hair as she fell asleep. Na closed her eyes, but clutched a folded piece of paper tightly in her palm. Ha gently pulled it out to look. Inside was a thickly drawn circle, with a strange character in the center, like a warped Chinese symbol, shaky and uneven. She placed the paper on the table and stood there, watching her daughter curled up peacefully. But her own eyes were heavy with dread. From outside the window, the night wind slipped through the curtain, carrying with it a faint tapping sound, like someone gently knocking on the glass. The tapping sound at the window hadn't stopped. In the bedroom, Ha sat with her back against the wall, eyes wide open. The clock struck 3 a.m. She glanced over at little Na, still sleeping soundly, holding a folded talisman tightly in her hands. Ha gently brushed her daughter's hair aside, then lay down beside her, forcing herself to close her eyes. The first time was during a gray, foggy afternoon. She found herself standing in the middle of a moss-covered brick courtyard, facing the familiar concrete shrine. No sound, no wind, yet the air felt like it was being compressed. In the center of the yard, a woman dressed in red knelt with her head bowed low, her hands tied tightly behind her back, eyes blindfolded with a strip of white cloth. Every time Ha tried to approach, her feet were glued to the ground. She couldn't scream, she couldn't retreat, she could only stand there, helpless, watching the woman tremble, letting out choking, stifled gasps. Ha jolted awake, drenched in sweat, her heart racing. She sprang up, opened the bedroom door, and walked down the hallway to find Lam. He was sitting at his desk, papers scattered everywhere. Ha rushed over, her voice panicked. "Lam, I had the dream again." Lam looked up, exhaustion in his eyes. "The same dream?" Ha sat across from him, hands clenched. "Yes, the same woman kneeling in front of the shrine. But this time I saw clearly, her hands were tied. Her eyes were covered. I was close, but I couldn't reach her." Lam sighed, poured her a glass of water, and slid it over. "Maybe you're just too stressed. You've been worried about Na. Our minds reflect what weighs on us." Ha shook her head, her voice firmer than usual. "No, this isn't just my imagination. The dream felt too real. I could hear her breathing, hear her crying, faint, like she was being silenced." Lam stayed quiet for a while, then gently patted her hand. "Tomorrow I'll take you and Na to get checked. If nothing's wrong, we'll go see someone who understands these things." That night, the weather turned. No thunder, no lightning, just strong winds sweeping across the roof tiles, making the wooden door creak in protest. After putting Na to sleep, Ha lay down beside her. Still, sleep didn't come, even with her eyes shut. Her mind kept replaying the image of the woman in red, bowed low. Around 3 a.m., Ha suddenly woke up, not from a sound, not from a nightmare. It was simply the feeling that someone was watching her. She didn't dare turn right away. Her body felt heavy, as if something was pressing down on her. It took several seconds before she finally mustered the courage to turn toward the corner of the room. Moonlight streamed through the curtain, casting a faint glow on the left wall. Someone was sitting there, their back hunched, long hair covering their face, both hands resting on their knees. A low mumbling sound filled the room, some strange, unfamiliar language, a steady rhythm, like an ancient chant. Ha stared, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. She tried to scream, but her throat felt squeezed shut. Her legs were numb, she couldn't move. The figure didn't stir, but slowly, its head tilted to one side, then fully to the other, in a way that wasn't natural. Like bones long unhinged. The chanting stopped. The air turned freezing cold in an instant. Then, from the darkness, a raspy voice rose, slow, dragging each word through clenched teeth. "Don't say my name." The next morning, Lam entered the room and found Ha sitting on the edge of the bed, pale, with dark circles under her eyes. Na was still asleep beside her, breathing evenly. He walked over, touched her shoulder. "You didn't sleep at all? You're ice cold?" Ha didn't answer right away. Only after a long pause did she speak, her voice sounding distant. "Last night, it wasn't a dream. My eyes were open. I saw it." Lam sat down beside her, gently holding her hand, but his eyes, too, were quietly drawn to the corner of the room, where the moonlight still slipped through the thin curtain, where there was nothing now. Or maybe, nothing left. Morning sunlight streamed through the curtain slits, casting a long beam across the floor. Ha sat blankly at the edge of the bed, her eyes still fixed on the corner of the room where she had seen the figure whispering in an unknown tongue the night before. Lam placed a cup of warm water on the table, then walked over and sat beside her, his voice hoarse. "Do you remember clearly? Were you awake? Or was it just a dream?" Ha didn't look at him. Her voice was flat, like a machine. I wasn't dreaming. My eyes were open. I sat up. I saw that person clearly. It wasn't a dream. Lam was silent for a few seconds, then rested his hand on her shoulder, trying to steady his voice. Then let me take you to see Master Sao later. They say he's good with land readings and feng shui. We need to figure this out. Around 10 in the morning, while Lam was preparing to go out, Ha was washing vegetables in the backyard when she heard the tap-tap of a cane at the gate. She turned around and saw old Madame Tu standing there, her wrinkled face carved deep by time. Ha put the basket of vegetables down, wiped her hands, and ran to open the gate, politely greeting. "Hello, ma'am, is there something you need?" Madame Tu didn't reply immediately. Her eyes scanned the yard before nodding slightly. "Do you have a moment? I've been meaning to come since yesterday, but I waited until your husband wasn't around." Ha nodded, slightly puzzled. "Of course. Please, come in." Madame Tu sat down on the wooden chair, holding the glass of water Ha had poured but not drinking it. Her eyes remained fixed on the far end of the hallway. After a moment, she spoke, her voice raspy but clear. "You've been here a few days now, and I've noticed your little girl often staring toward that corner. I also smell incense every night, faint but lingering. So, I assume you've broken through the back wall?" Ha, sitting across from her, clasped her hands tightly and nodded. "Yes, that's right. While we were cleaning the house, my husband discovered a sealed wall. He broke it down and found the shrine. I didn't really understand what it was, so I just cleaned it and lit some incense." Madame Tu lowered her voice, her words dripping from memory. "That shrine, it's not for worship. It's a prison for a spirit. When I was a child, my grandfather told me this house was the site of something terrible. There was a woman, people in the village said she practiced black magic. No one knew for sure, but after several strange disappearances, the villagers stormed the house, tied her up in the courtyard. She didn't scream, she just looked at everyone and laughed." Ha swallowed hard, her voice barely a whisper. "They killed her?" The old woman nodded slightly, sadness in her eyes. "They didn't dare kill her outright, afraid her curse would rebound. So they buried her alive in the corner of the yard. Later, a spiritual master from across the province came and instructed them to build a shrine on the spot and seal the soul with talisman spells. They called it a binding shrine. Once it was built, everyone thought the danger was over. But a few years later, someone bought the house. That man was a self-proclaimed feng shui expert. After living there for less than 3 months, he broke open the shrine to take a look. A week later, he went mad, wandering the market, speaking strange languages, drawing symbols all over the walls." Ha went cold. Her hands gripped the edge of the chair. She asked softly, as if afraid of her own question, "What happened after that?" Madame Tu looked up, her eyes heavy. "No one dared touch it again. The house was abandoned for nearly 10 years. Eventually, someone renovated it, sealed off the shrine, and sold the house cheap. People just thought it was discounted because of its cold ground. But if your daughter starts talking in her sleep, drawing talismans, or behaving oddly, then you must understand the old prison may have cracks." Ha sat frozen. A chill ran down her spine. She exhaled slowly, but her hands remained clenched. "Then what should I do now?" The old woman shook her head slowly. "I don't know. I'm not a spiritual master. I'm only retelling what I remember. Whether you believe it or not is up to you." As Ha walked the old woman to the gate, she suddenly heard a soft gust of wind behind her. She turned around and saw the curtain at the end of the hallway sway gently, even though the window had been shut tightly all morning. As Madame Tu stepped out through the gate, she called back, her voice dry and cracking, "Don't leave the child alone in the house, especially when the wind starts to blow." The iron gate clicked shut behind her. Ha stood still in the courtyard, her eyes fixed on the hallway where the curtain had fluttered. She couldn't tell if it was the wind or something else. Inside her mind, one sentence from old Madame Tu kept repeating like a wire stretched taut across her nerves. "Don't let the girl stay home alone, especially when the wind begins to change." That afternoon, the moment Lam stepped into the yard, Ha met him at the door. She told him everything the old woman had said, every word, every detail, nothing added, nothing left out. Lam listened silently. His face, usually firm and composed, gradually faded into a blank, troubled stare. He walked to the far end of the wall, the one that hid the old shrine, and gazed at the faint cracks in the hardened cement. After a long pause, he finally spoke, voice low but steady. "We'll get help. I already called someone, a man my cousin recommended. He's handled some nasty hauntings back in my hometown. He'll be here tomorrow morning. 7 sharp. Ha looked at her husband and nodded. "I don't care if he's powerful or not. I just don't want this to get worse." The next morning, before sunlight had fully spread, a man in a pale gray robe walked through the gate, his back slightly hunched. He carried a cloth bag filled with incense, charms, bells, and folded talismans. His name was Master Tam, around 60. Quiet-spoken, with tired, deep-set eyes. He asked only a few questions before getting straight to work. He set up an offering in front of the shrine, unrolled a mat at the edge of the hallway, and silently placed 3 incense sticks into a brand new censer. The moment he lit them, a sharp wind howled through the house. Even though no doors or windows had been opened, the curtains whipped violently, and the incense sticks nearly flew from the censer. Ha, holding Little Na tightly in her arms, shivered. She whispered to Lam, "Did you hear that? That wind, it's not normal. It feels like it's whispering right beside my ear." Lam stepped forward to catch the incense, but Master Tam raised a hand to stop him. "Leave it," he said, voice calm but firm. "This is not ordinary wind." He pulled out a square of yellow paper and scribbled something quickly onto it. Then he lit it, chanted under his breath, and scattered the ashes in a circle around the shrine. The flame curved into an arc as it burned. Smoke rose and drifted outward like a thin, gray veil. Suddenly, crack, the old incense bowl inside the shrine burst open. A shard of ceramic flew across the floor and shattered against the far wall into 3 jagged pieces. Master Tam stood up immediately. His face turned pale, his eyes widened, staring into the hollow shrine. His voice lost its steadiness. "No, it refuses to go. It's resisting. It has already turned." Ha panicked, clutching her child tighter. "Turned? What does that mean? Please, tell us." Master Tam stepped back toward the yard. His hands trembled slightly, and he stammered, "It means, the seal was strong, but the spirit inside has broken free. It's no longer under control. Anyone who gets close will become the target. I can't handle this." Lam rushed forward, grabbing the man's shoulder, voice rising. "You said you were experienced. You promised you could help." Master Tam shook his head, stepping back again, eyes locked on the shrine. "I can't risk it. This isn't a normal ghost. It's something that's been locked away for too long. The resentment, it's thick as blood. It's looking for someone to take its place. In this house, whoever's spirit is weakest will be the easiest substitute." Then he turned and left, not even bothering to collect his tools. The gate slammed shut behind him. Ha collapsed into a chair, her arms trembling. Little Na stayed quiet in her arms, resting her head against her mother's shoulder. Lam knelt down beside them, his voice low and cautious. "Na, are you scared? Do you understand what's happening?" Na didn't answer. Slowly, she lifted her head. Her eyes were wide, the pupils dilated unnaturally. Then a voice came from her mouth, but it wasn't the voice of a 5-year-old. "I am not your child." Silence. Ha froze. Lam stared in disbelief. Ha shook her gently, whispering, "Na, what did you say? What's wrong, sweetheart?" Na blinked once, as if waking from a nap, then looked at her mother with confused, hollow eyes. "Mama, why are you crying?" Lam stepped back, his face pale with dread. He turned toward the shrine. The broken censer lay tilted. Bits of still warm ceramic glowed faintly. Smoke continued to rise, thin, winding upward into the bright midday light. That morning, the house felt eerily silent. No one spoke after the strange sentence that came from Little Na's mouth. "I am not your child." Lam sat leaning against the wall, eyes closed but unable to sleep. Ha sat beside him, holding their daughter, her hands still trembling, sweat forming despite the cool breeze outside. Na had fallen into a deep sleep since noon. Her face was pale and lifeless. Lam looked at her and whispered, "Do you think maybe something has possessed her?" Ha gently squeezed her daughter's hand, her eyes still fixed on the small shrine at the end of the hallway. "I don't want to believe that. But do you remember what Madame Tu said? She mentioned someone might have been buried alive beneath it. What if they're still down there?" Lam didn't respond right away. He sat in silence for a long moment, then slowly nodded. "I think it's time we dig." By late afternoon, the sun had dipped behind the old tile roofs. Ha took Na to the neighbor's house, saying they were renovating the floor. Lam took off his shirt and picked up a shovel and a pickaxe. He stood before the cement shrine, staring at the ground behind it, where the broken censer lay scattered. Ashes spilled along the base of the wall. Ha knelt to sweep the incense dust, whispering softly, "If this is someone's resting place, we ask for permission to uncover the truth. Not to disrespect, please forgive us." Lam began to dig. Each strike of the pick rang out sharply. Dirt flew, dust clouded in the dimming light. With every layer lifted, their silence deepened. About 30 minutes later, as the tool struck a rough layer of gravel, Lam heard a dry clunk. He paused, then brushed away the remaining soil with his hands. A rotting piece of wood emerged first. Then gradually, small, crumbling, yellow-brown bones appeared beneath the flashlight beam. Ha gasped, covering her mouth, stepping back in shock. Lam picked up a long fragment, a human forearm bone, thin and short, likely from a woman. He continued clearing the area. In one corner, he discovered a small, aged scroll wrapped tightly in a red fabric strip. Ha stepped closer, startled, her hands trembling as she received it. It's Chinese script. I can't read most of it. But these 3 characters are clear: seal, spirit, reversal. She stepped back, holding the scroll as if it might fall apart. Lam's face turned pale. He spoke in a hoarse, uncertain voice. "This might be the exact place where they sealed a reversal curse, just like Madame Tu said. They tied someone up, buried them alive, and placed a charm to trap their soul. But something disturbed it, and now it's turning back." The 2 wrapped all the bones, ashes, and the scroll inside a white cloth. Neither of them spoke as they prepared the ritual fire. Ha placed the bundle into a metal basin and lit the flame. The fire burst upward violently, rising as if wind had been fed into it, though there was no wind felt at all. As the fire roared, the entire house shuddered, then again, and again, like something slamming into the walls from all directions. Dishes in the kitchen clattered. The lights flickered madly. Ha grabbed Lam's arm, eyes wide, pressing her back against the wall. "Did you hear that? Someone's walking around the house." Lam pulled her close, eyes fixed on the fire devouring the last of the scroll. Then, bang! The door to Na's room slammed shut, even though the child was no longer inside. They both rushed toward the sound. The door creaked open. Na lay collapsed on the floor. A red streak of ink stretched across her forehead, from between her eyebrows to the top of her hairline. Her body was ice cold. Ha screamed and ran forward, scooping her daughter into her arms, panic overtaking her voice. "Na, sweetheart, what's wrong?" Lam knelt beside them, checking her pulse. Thankfully, her heart was still beating, but faintly. He exhaled heavily, lifting her. "Get your coat, we're going to the hospital. Now." The late afternoon wind howled through the closed shutters. The fire's dying embers cast orange glows onto the ceiling. And for a moment, behind the curtain, a shadow stood silently, watching the motorbike speed off down the alleyway. The motorbike stopped in front of the hospital just as the sky turned dark. Lam rushed into the emergency room, carrying little Na in his arms. Ha followed behind, her hands trembling as she signed the admission papers. Each step felt like her feet were glued to the floor, nothing left but fear. Na was taken into a special monitoring room. The nurse said her heartbeat was weak, but she hadn't slipped into a deep coma. They needed to wait for her vitals to stabilize before running tests. Ha sat close beside the bed, clutching her daughter's hand tightly. Lam stood by the door, unable to look directly at the faded red mark on Na's forehead, the one the doctor had wiped off. Though a faint trace still lingered. Near midnight, Na whimpered in her sleep. Ha rushed to her, pressing her cheek against her daughter's, whispering over and over, "Mommy's here, Mommy's right here, I'm not going anywhere." Lam walked over, placed a hand on his wife's shoulder. His voice deep and steady. "Tomorrow morning, I'm going to find someone to break this curse. I don't want to live even one more day feeling like this." 2 days later, a different spiritual master arrived, this one recommended by a family friend from their hometown. His name was Master Nam. He was small in stature, spoke gently, and had a calm presence, unlike the cold demeanor of the previous exorcist. He visited the house, listened to the full story, then sat silently in front of the old shrine for a long time. Finally, he spoke a single sentence. "The fire has burned, the spirit has stirred. Now, the only way is to break the spiral. Don't trap it, don't fight it. Just light a new path for it to follow." The cleansing ritual was held at dusk. Master Nam set up offerings in front of the shrine, then scattered rice and salt from the doorway all the way to the front gate. He sat down and recited a very long chant, not to summon or banish, but as if giving final instructions. A new incense holder was placed. Oil lamps were lit on both sides. No wind, no strange sounds. Everything was still. When he placed the final stick of incense, the thin stream of smoke curled into a spiral, then slowly unraveled and faded. He turned to Lam and Ha, speaking softly, "It's done. Keep the shrine intact. Clean the kitchen. Don't sell the house yet. Wait 3 more days." Lam nodded, bowing in silent gratitude. Ha stood behind him, tears falling before she even noticed. That night, Na woke up. She opened her eyes, clear and bright, as if nothing had ever happened. Ha rushed over, hugging her tightly, sobbing her daughter's name over and over. Lam stood by, resting his hand on his wife's shoulder, for the first time in days. His eyes were no longer filled with fear. Na looked up and whispered softly, "Mommy, I had a dream. I was lost, but a lady helped me find my way back." She's not sad anymore. 3 days later, the morning sky was clear and bright. Lam called someone to appraise the house, ready to list it for sale. Ha packed their belongings, telling stories to Na to ease her mind and keep her connected to her school life. The house felt calm in a way it hadn't in a long time. A quietness that wasn't empty, but peaceful. By noon, Lam stepped outside to speak with a potential buyer. Ha stayed in, folding Na's clothes, when she heard soft giggling from outside the gate. She looked up. Sunlight streamed through the fence slats. A little girl, maybe 4 or 5 years old, stood in front of the gate, tossing a cloth ball in the air, giggling softly. Ha frowned. She didn't recall any child that age in the neighborhood. She stood up and walked to the front door. The laughter stopped. The little girl was gone. Only the cloth ball remained, rolling slowly, until it stopped right at the threshold. Ha bent down and picked it up. It was old, patched many times, but, on one side, in faded red thread, were 3 crooked words. "Do not call." A sudden gust of wind swept across the yard. The curtain in Na's room fluttered gently. Noon light still poured down the narrow alley. This house, once filled with laughter, with cries, now echoed only with the wind slipping through the door cracks. Na had awakened. The family was ready to leave. It seemed like everything had ended. But then, another little girl stood at the gate. An old cloth ball rolled to the mother's feet. A faded red message, "Do not call." And the sound of curtains rustling in a room that had been locked since morning. If you're still here, listening at this very moment, thank you for staying with me until the end of this journey. If you believe there are things that reason can't explain, just leave a comment below. Even a simple dot will let me know you're still here. And if you want more stories like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss an episode of what's yet to come.